It's no secret I am a huge fan of therapy. It's one of the most important ways I've supported my own growth over the years, which is why I do not recommend platforms lightly. This month, Courage Class has partnered with Anise Health, an AAPI-focused online therapy platform I have personally used. And from the very first session, I felt very understood. My therapist immediately recognized my struggle with perfectionism and understood it through a cultural lens without judgment or without me having to over-explain. I laughed and I cried and I left feeling lighter. That's what culturally attuned care should feel like. If therapy is something you're considering, Anise is offering a free intake session this month using my code COURAGE2026, all one word. So go to Anise Health, that's www.anisehealth.co, complete the intake form, less than 5 minutes, and get matched with a therapist who understands your lived experience. Welcome to Courage Class. I'm Dr. Lindsay Q, and each week I'm in conversation with our community's changemakers and trailblazers. Together, we explore the unspoken parts of our Asian and Western experiences, finding strength, growth, and healing that reflect who we truly are, not who we've been told to be. I'm so glad you're here. Class is now in session. For many of us in the Asian American community, we were taught to chase achievement and financial stability. And look, there's nothing wrong with that. But achievement without intention limits discernment. And without discernment, every opportunity can deceptively look like the right one. That's where Nicole Cruz comes in. Nicole's a TEDx speaker and a leadership coach who works with the Asian community and their allies to redefine success beyond achievement alone. She teaches us how to start with intention by identifying the feeling we want to experience, not just the outcome that we want to reach. And that feeling becomes a filter. It helps us to discern which opportunities actually move us toward fulfillment and which ones simply keep us busy achieving. This shift from chasing goals to choosing alignment is what makes a life feel purposeful, not just productive. Let's take a listen. So many of us in our community were really taught, both explicitly or implicitly, that our worth is tied to productivity or achievement. And so for the listener who has achieved everything from the degrees to the salary, to the title, to the accolades, but they still feel like something is off, if they took everything to heart that you will teach us today, how do you think their life will feel differently?
Oh, you so hit the nail on the head of really describing what so many in our community experience and go through.
Mm.
And so my hope is that for people who really take what we're talking about today to heart, is that they walk away with understanding that they can still be, still achieve and still do all that.
Yes.
Um, but it can come from a place that's intrinsic, that's from what they want, rather than this kind of chase of constantly seeking approval or proving themselves. I hope they know that you are good enough as is,
Mm.
more than.
Yeah.
And so anything you do from now is just like icing. It's just extra.
Wow.
Um,
Yeah.
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 I appreciate that. I mean, you said the word chase, and I just like it really just jumped out at me because for a better part of my adult career, or my adult life rather, and my career, that's exactly how it
Yeah.
has felt. And it's
Hmm.
constant. It's like never feeling like you're settled, never feeling sort of satisfied or feeling grounded
Yep.
in all that you've done. And I feel as though you've really captured what so many in the courage class, all the courage class listeners, in the community in general,
Mm.
um, what we're sort of feeling and experiencing. Nicole, you have an incredible background, if I may say. I think that as I shared with you, right before we hit record, I was doing some reading on you and your background. You are the daughter of Filipino immigrants, incredibly hardworking Filipino immigrants. You yourself have worked in corporate environments, and now you are a leadership coach for AAPI professionals, specifically those who are the first in their family, and you help all of us redefine success. I'm curious to know from you, was there ever a moment in your life when you realized that the path that you were on, it looked successful externally, but it didn't necessarily feel aligned on the inside?
Yeah. Thank you for saying that. It was it was a moment, but it was also a culmination of moments.
Okay.
Uh, and so I did all the things. I climbed the corporate ladder. I was, managing multi-million-dollar projects before I was 30. I hit the six
Wow.
figures, did
Wow.
the master's degree, all of the
Yes.
kind of amazing immigrant child things that you want
Absolutely.
to achieve.
Absolutely.
Um, and it was, I would say, my early 30s. I had secured this job in this huge organization, that I thought, like, this is the thing I want to do for the rest of my life. And I got there and I was like, this doesn't feel how I thought it would. It wasn't what I was expecting. And I remember at some point crying under the covers of my bed because I was like, I I got all these things. I'm doing this. I have all these accolades, but I feel like I'm living a half life. Like
Oh,
I'm kind of going through the motions,
yeah.
and um yeah, just kind of doing all the things but not feeling how I wanted to feel.
Yes.
And it's at that point where I realized, like, oh, I actually have to make some changes, or else I could see in I could see years down the road me just doing the same thing
Yeah.
over and over again.
Yeah. Yeah. You just said the word feeling, and you even emphasize the word feeling. And I'm curious to know from you, Nicole, when you were sort of going through and you were hitting all of these incredible milestones. I'm managing like multi-million contracts. I have a master's degree. I'm doing all of the things that, you know, our community, the society tells you, these are the things that are going to make you happy. And to some degree, it, those moments are important,
Yeah.
and they can bring happiness. But what I sort of heard from you just now is when you said the word feelings, like you really emphasized that. And I'm curious to know, that feeling, was it like yelling at you like from day one? Or you said it
Mm.
was a culmination of experiences. Was it sort of quiet and like this, like sort of like knowing inside, like, oh, something's off? And then like it was this moment of like, oh, I can't.
Yeah.
Can you
Yeah.
let us? Yeah.
Um, so yes, it was like a buildup. It was a building. It was a bunch of, for throughout my life, like kind of feeling like, oh, this is a little off, but ignoring it, right? Or like, oh, I don't know if I want to do this. Oh, but I should do this, right? And just kind of ignoring
Sure.
that nagging feeling
Yes.
until it built up to a point, built up to a point where it it was then like screaming at me. I was
Yes.
like, something needs to change. This is not how you want to feel,
Yeah.
for the rest of your life. And I think for a lot, what I've seen in my clients and a lot of our community, it does require getting to a pain threshold or pain tipping point where it's like,
Mm,
okay, now let me really pay attention and do something
yeah.
about it. Because a lot of times we have been conditioned to ignore ourselves and just listen to all the voices outside of us. And so it needed for me at least to get to a certain point where I'm like, I cannot ignore
Yeah.
this anymore.
Yeah. No, I had a very similar trajectory. It was sort of this nagging feeling, and then it was to a point where you said pain threshold, and that it was exactly what I experienced in my own career, in my own personal life, even. Um, you said that this is the way we are conditioned. We're conditioned, we're trained to not listen to these nagging feelings. We know inside of our body that something is off, but we just sort of push through. That's so symbolic, so embedded in our community. And I'm curious to know, Nicole, how do family expectations, cultural values, and or hustle culture, how do
Mhm.
those subtly sort of shape the way many of us set goals in the AAPI community, generally speaking,
Right.
um, even when we believe we're choosing freely? Because I will share, I thought that this was, I was making very strategic and intentional choices, and I learned,
Yes.
it ultimately was not. So
That's such a good point because in the moment, I'm like, I have free will. I am doing
totally.
this.
Yes.
This is what I'm choosing. Um, but looking back, I mean, it's, what I share a lot is, and why I do culturally informed coaching is we are, we exist within context, right? We don't just like wake up one day and decide, oh, I'm going to choose what my parents want for me, right? We There's a lot of influences, like you said, in our lives, and so one of the some of the things that we might have experienced growing up is um, uh, being shamed around failure, right?
Mm,
If you make a mistake, if you fail, if
yes.
you are even just messy, like that's not okay. That's not acceptable.
Yeah.
And so we develop a really low failure tolerance and where we will be so averse to anything risky or anything that has a higher likelihood of failure.
Yes.
How that impacts our goals is we will then choose goals we know we can achieve
Oh,
versus goals that we actually want. And sometimes those are the same,
yes.
but
Yes.
sometimes they're not.
Totally.
Yeah.
Totally. Yeah.
So, for example, when I worked in like health insurance for a long time. That was not what I wanted to do. Um, and so along the way, I'm like, oh, well, I should switch careers. I should change jobs. Um, I didn't know the likelihood of success of that. And so instead, I set my sights on the next promotion in the same career path because I knew if I just worked hard enough, I would be able to achieve that.
Ah,
Instead of setting the goal, let me actually pivot out of
yeah.
this.
Wow. That totally tracks. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's like what we know, right? It's like put your head
Yeah.
down and just work, 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 work. I know I have a greater likelihood of achieving, that next promotion or whatever that next
Yeah.
milestone is, as opposed to really thinking about like, what do I want in turn? And to your
Hmm.
point, like it can be the same or similar, and it can be, especially at least in my case, it was totally opposite.
Yeah.
And there's a certainty, a level of comfort in knowing that, oh, I can just work. That's the game plan that I've been taught my entire life. You just work, 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 and you can get to that next milestone. There's a certainty in that. There's a comfort in that. And sorry, go ahead.
No, that I totally agree. And I'd say that certainty that comes up, we're taught to really crave that,
Oh,
right?
yeah.
And especially, if you're the first in your family, if you're a child of immigrants, we come from backgrounds where certainty was so cherished, right?
Yes.
Where safety was so cherished. It wasn't a given.
Yeah.
And so it makes sense that that's how we are
Totally.
taught by our family, like to
Yeah.
want that certainty.
I mean, you talked about just now that we are raised inside, we exist in context. And so this
Hmm.
is what we sort of we're taught, or we believe because we're experiencing it constantly. It's like the air we
Yeah.
breathe. We're consuming this information, this contextual information. And when you said that, I let out sort of a sigh of relief, because I almost feel like there's some grace and some compassion
Yeah.
that I can give myself, my community, my parents, when you say that we exist in context. And it's so important to acknowledge that, our previous generations, they had to do certain things for, to your point, for certainty, for safety, for stability. I mean, that was the gold standard of
Yeah.
historically previous generations in our community, and for good reason, because many, if not all, we were all immigrants, all of, and so to be able to leverage that same game plan inside a current context. Okay, certainty, stability, like let me just work hard. You know, I guess what I'm trying to say, Courage Class, is give yourself some grace. Nicole's telling us, give yourself some grace,
Yes.
offer yourself some compassion, because this is the mix of what we've been raised within. And so the idea that we would begin to question that game plan, it's actually really, it's scary. It's
It is terrifying.
terrifying. Yeah. Um, Nicole, I'm curious to know, you work with so many in our community. You've worked in so many incredible companies to support um, folks within. I'm curious to know, what are some signs that you notice in your clients that indicate that they're operating from an achievement perspective rather than, being aligned?
Mm.
And I guess I want to caveat with, achievement doesn't have to necessarily be mutually exclusive. But I'm curious to know, are there any sort of like blaring signs where you're like, oh, you're just checking those boxes. You're not even thinking about like
Yeah.
what really is important to you.
Yeah, I mean, it's really easy actually.
Mm.
It's when I ask them, why do you want that? And they don't have an answer.
Oh,
Or the answer is like, well, it makes sense. Or, you know, it's where it's coming from a place that doesn't sound like, well, I want to experience this. This is what I'm desiring, right?
wow.
It's and a lot of times it's kind of like this deer in the headlights moment or realization of like, oh, I don't know. I haven't asked myself that.
Oh,
Um, yeah.
yeah.
Um, and so that's that's hard to realize,
Yeah,
right? Especially if you're used to operating in that way.
totally. And,
Yeah.
and you even use like that pronoun I is so
Yes.
uncomfortable. Like,
Yeah.
what do I desire? It's like, what do
Yeah.
I want? Like, that is,
Hmm.
um, for those of us, all of us in the Asian community, we are very collectivist
Yeah.
generally, in the way we think about things. So just even the I can see, what do I want? Like, I can see like how quickly, like, it's easy to identify achievement versus alignment, that
Yes. Yeah.
person. So,
Yeah. And and I always share a kind of a disclaimer before I work with people around this is, it's going to be uncomfortable. It might be a bit overwhelming
yeah,
to start turning like the lens inward, because we're not used to it,
we're
like you
not used
said.
to it. Yes.
Yeah. We don't know it. We actually a lot of times have been taught it's not okay to do that.
Totally. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. And that goes back to the cultural context, would you say, like the
Hmm.
familial context that we're raised in?
Yeah.
Like that's what
Yeah.
we're explicitly taught. Yeah, turning that lens inward, man, that's that's terrifying. I just want to let Courage
Yeah.
Class know, give yourself some grace with that, because that is
Exactly.
scary. That is really,
It
really
is.
scary.
Hmm.
And it's so interesting, Nicole, because I've been in conversation with folks, and it almost feels like they get defensive.
Yeah.
Like, is this really what you want to do? Is this really like the next step that you want to pursue? Like, how do you feel in this conversation? I don't have the expertise that you do, or the coaching credentials that you do. It's just a
Hmm.
question. And I know also, I'm going to own it. Like, I've been defensive before. Like, of course I'm
Yeah.
going to do this for my kids. Of course I'm going to do this for my family. Of course I'm going to fall on the sword and do all the things and work at the same time. Like, it's insane.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I experienced some of that too. And I, I think some of the defensiveness is, again, tied to we don't want to be wrong, right? And
Oh,
sometimes
yeah.
when we start asking ourselves, well, why do I want this? Do I want this? We start realizing that the answer is not, doesn't align with what feels comfortable to pursue,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
It's going to require some uncomfortable change.
Yeah.
And so, it's, yeah, so sometimes our guard comes up and it's like, well, like, why are you even questioning this? Or, yeah, like you said, of course I'm going to do this.
Yes. Yes. No, you're
Hmm.
right. It is. And I'm like, now I'm like trying to get curious about even my own response. I'm like, yeah, like, cause I don't want, you're right. It's cause I
Hmm.
don't want to be wrong. I'm supposed to have all the answers. Like I'm supposed to be the achiever. So it's like you're at its very core in asking me to turn that lens towards myself is like challenging my identity.
Oof.
Very much so. It feels like,
Hmm.
so I think, yeah, no, I really appreciate you sort of breaking that down for us because I think that it almost feels like it's important through this process. To your point, whenever you start working with clients, you're going to feel some discomfort. And so I think that just knowing that going in, that that's sort of a general response, maybe
Yeah.
that helps a person give themselves a little bit of grace and compassion that
Yeah.
everyone experiences this when we start to really encourage folks to look inward as opposed to like looking purely at external
Right.
sort of expectations.
Yes. Like, talk about courage. I mean,
Yeah.
it's a it's a simple question to ask yourself, what do I want? Right? It seems simple on
Yeah.
the surface. Uh, but like you said, um, it is also you tapping into your identity, your desires, your
Yeah.
interests, how uncomfortable it is to realize that you haven't asked yourself that question, maybe ever.
Yes.
And all of the cultural social conditioning that has been telling us that's not a question you ask yourself.
Yes.
I mean, it does take courage to start turning inward.
Absolutely. And is that the first step? Like you think in the work that you do, when you really start to encourage folks to move in a different direction, in a direction that's more aligned with who they are, is that the first step to just sort of recognize that, oh, I haven't been turning this lens, or I haven't been asking myself these questions.
Yeah. Yes. And even them, honestly, even them just accepting support on it
Oh,
or
yeah.
seeking support on on realizing like something feels off. Let me talk to someone. Let
Oh,
me
yeah.
get support on this. Like that's huge
Yes.
because I personally am like I spent decades turning off that voice of like think something needs to change. And so even them admitting to themselves, oh, maybe something can be different
Yeah.
is a big first step.
Yeah, no, I love that you said that the first big step could be just even asking for support. I mean, to your point, yes, it feels like such an easy question to be like, well, what do you want from this life, or what do you
Hmm.
desire? That feels so simple, but actually in a collectivist context, in an AAPI context, there are so many, I want to say nuances, but I feel like it's like gigantic leaps
Yeah,
almost, right?
it's
That
not
we
subtle.
have, it's not subtle. It's like,
Yeah.
this is like a huge, I'm having an aha moment for all of you. Like Nicole, you are teaching us so much. This is actually so much harder
Hmm.
to start taking steps towards because these are just things we have never contemplated before. We have never
Yeah.
questioned for good reason. This was the strategy that previous generations perhaps
Yeah.
needed in order to survive in a new context. And we just have this beautiful privilege and opportunity as a community
Hmm.
now. We have resources, incredible resources like Nicole Cruz to teach us really like what are the steps that we need to take in order to begin moving towards like answering the question of what do we want. And guys, give yourself some grace and compassion because we're having to ask for help, we're having to admit things out loud that we don't know,
Yes.
we're having to turn like everything, turn the lens inward and ask ourselves these questions.
Hmm.
No one has ever, I'll speak for myself, but I'm going to, I think it feels like a safe assumption to say that collectively these are questions that we have never, ever, ever been asked. Because to your
Mm.
point, Nicole, this is our cultural context. This is
Yeah.
sort of the air we've been breathing for so
Mm.
long, for so long.
Yeah. Mm.
Hmm.
I love that phrase, the air we've been breathing, because it is all encompassing, right?
Yeah,
It's we are immersed
we're immersed.
we in it. Yeah.
Yeah. It's like we don't
And so
even
of
realize it.
course, yeah, and so of course it's going to influence us.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm.
I appreciate that. Thank you so much. I want to ask you this question. So, in we've started to touch upon it, but I'm curious to know from you, Nicole. So now we recognize that we need to do all of these. We need to be able to ask for help. We have to admit that we're wrong. We have to begin. How do we actually begin to move from achievement perspective to being more aligned with what truly matters?
Yeah. So first, as Lindsay's been saying, like give yourself grace, right? And give yourself permission to uncover what you want. Uh, yeah. Sometimes it feels very wrong, right? To even allow ourselves to enter into our realm of possibility, a different reality, a different way of operating. Permission and how I like to move from achievement to a more like intrinsic aligned view is to is to shift from achievement to experience. And so if you're,
Mhm.
because achievement is very like end goal,
Yes.
right? Like promotion, raise, masters, whatever it is.
Yes.
It's very like an arrival. Uh, but there's such a myth of arrival because once you get there, it's like, now what, right? And for a lot of us who don't celebrate ourselves when we do achieve things, we get there and we're like, okay, what's next? That's
Ah,
where the chase comes in,
yes.
right?
Yeah.
And so instead of thinking of the end goal, I'd like you to ask yourself, what do I want to experience instead of what do I want to achieve? So, for example, if the achievement is, I want to get a promotion, ask yourself, what is the experience in that I'm wanting?
Mm.
Maybe it's, well, I want to experience leading a large group of people, or I want to experience what it's like to be challenged in a certain way. And maybe you realize, I actually don't want to experience those things. And so maybe that's not the goal that you want to direct your efforts towards. And so I feel like when we focus on experience, it organically turns it to us and how
Mm.
we're feeling. And it also asks us to think about the journey rather than just the end goal.
Oh, wow.
So that we, maybe and it doesn't have to be career oriented, right? It could be like, I want to experience seeing the northern lights, right? I want to experience wonder and awe and like being somewhere completely different. So it puts you in your body and in your experience of something rather than I'm going to put my head down, put blinders on, I'm going to achieve this goal.
Totally.
Yeah.
That's so important too. I feel like, when you first of all, I wrote so many tweetable things. It's not no longer called Twitter. This
I
is
know.
how old I am.
I'm
No
with
longer
you.
called
I'm with you
Twitter,
on
but
that.
yes, thank you. Thank you for that, Nicole.
I'm with you.
But there's so many just gems that you said. Think about think about experience versus achievement. Think about the journey as opposed to the end goal. There's a myth of arrival. Think about, what do I want to experience? I mean, when you said like even keeping blinders on in order to get to that, so many of us, myself for sure included, like that has been the name of the game for so long, and you miss so much when you just have the blinders on. You're just like, I got to get to the next promotion. It's
Yeah.
like you miss out on life, it feels like. I almost feel like you are calling us to not not only be present more in our own lives, but when we are but and that's important. And I will say when I'm present, I recognize that I also have the opportunity to connect and be in relation with
Mm.
other people who are important, which builds for a beautifully richer tapestry of like life experience as
Yeah.
opposed to like just getting the next promotion or getting the salary raise. I don't want poo poo on salary and like promotions. Those are
Oh no,
important,
those are
you know,
great.
those are
Yeah.
great. And like you're really encouraging us to think about at least what I hear you and please what I hear from you and please Nicole correct me if I'm wrong. I really hear you calling us to experience life more fully.
Yes.
And there's a
Oh,
beauty. There's just really a beauty in that. A richness in that.
yeah. I love how you articulated that. And I think, thinking back to my experience, that's why when I got to the achievement point, I felt half,
Ah,
I felt like because in the process, I ignored some friendships or I would ignore even the inklings that were tugging me, like, are you sure you want this? I
yeah,
would ignore that. Um, and by putting blinders on and like just solely focusing on whatever the goal is, we also close ourselves off to other ways to achieve it. Because we, with blinders on, we're like, I know this one way to do it, and so let me just do it.
yes,
Um, Whereas when we're thinking of the experience, like, okay, if the goal really is, I want to experience what it's like to lead a large group of people towards a common vision,
yeah,
maybe there's other ways you can do that that aren't just
yeah,
getting that promotion,
totally,
right? Yeah.
totally. And there's like so much learning that happens in that. My brain goes to like, what opportunities do I have to prepare me for even to be able to do that? I don't know if it's,
Yeah.
having lunch with my team and there's fun,
Uh,
there's joy in deconstructing. Like, what do I need to experience in order to, be able to have that experience
yeah.
versus I just need to get promoted.
Hmm.
And promotion,
Yeah.
it feels like can be part of that too, as well.
Right.
Yeah.
Exactly. Where then the promotion doesn't become the ultimate end goal, but it's like
Yes.
a natural thing that happens because of the experiences you allowed yourself to embark on along the way. Like,
Yes.
oh, yeah, okay.
Yes.
Promotion is a part of it, not just I got there.
Promotion is a part of it.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Thank you for saying that too. Thank you for
Yeah.
validating that. Gosh, this is I knew this was going to be an incredible conversation, Nicole. But honestly, like I'm like it feels so silly to like move to a vision board after
No, no, not at
I'm like,
all.
I asked Nicole if she would look at a vision board because as we prepare for, I know this is supposed to be evergreen, um, the episode rather, but in full truth, we're preparing to enter a
Yeah.
new year. And so I asked Nicole if she would review an old vision board because for up until this moment, I think I've been very achievement focused, to be totally
Mhm.
honest. And I've been trying really hard to move towards values, having and living and pursuing a more values aligned life with greater intention. And, so Courage Class, I sent Nicole ahead of time my vision board. And I asked Nicole if she would critique it, if she could share with me what she's noticing and ways in which to improve it. Now, I want to caveat this with Nicole. I know that your work, your leadership work, your life work is significantly more wonderfully complex than just the vision board. And I'm grateful to you for offering your wisdom through this very concrete experience for our audience, our listeners rather, to best to understand in a very concrete way. What are some questions that we can really ask ourselves as we approach the new year if our intention is to live a more values aligned life, to experience our
Hmm.
life so much more fully in the way that you've really been calling us to do in this conversation.
Yeah. And I just want to acknowledge you for being vulnerable and owning like this is how I've operated is
Mhm.
very achievement oriented. Because that again, like I said, that's a big step in just understanding like, oh, okay, there can be a different way to approach this. And I love a vision board.
They do.
I love a vision board.
Yes. Yes.
For me, it's like a way to make the intangible more tangible,
Yes.
right? And
Yes.
it's a visual reminder that we need sometimes when pursuing the experiences that we want.
Yes.
So yeah, I'm all about the vision board.
Okay.
And thank you for allowing me to see yours
Well,
from this past year.
I'm grateful to you. So is it okay then? May I bring up the vision board?
Yes.
Okay.
Yep.
So Courage Class, if you're listening, I'm pulling it up right now, and I have like my goals, and I have some sayings, and I have the core values that I had identified for myself at the very beginning of 2025. And my per what Nicole just shared, my full disclosure is I was, preparing to launch Courage Class, and I was very like achievement, like I got to get there, I got to get there. I've got, I even have a picture of skills on there. These are the skills that I need in order to get there. And embarrassingly, I have this like very ripped looking. I'm just gonna call it out right now. Oh my God, why did I do this? No, I'm just kidding. It's very embarrassing, sort of ripped body because I want to tell myself I need to work out. I need to be
Mm,
healthier. So,
yeah.
um, so Nicole, as I shared with you just now, I can own I've been very achievement oriented, trying really hard to move towards a more intentional and aligned life. I'm curious to know if I may put you on the spot.
Yeah.
As you look at this, what do you notice about some of the values or motivations underneath these goals? And how would you invite me to um, improve upon this, or to um, create something that's more, I think, aligned with my values and my intentions?
Yeah. Um, uh, thanks for calling yourself out on the ripped. I've done that before too,
Yes.
so you're not alone in that. So what I see from here, just like not asking you any questions, right? Just looking at the vision board. Um, there's a good mix. It looks like some travel, there's some work related, there's some values on there. It looks like there's um, where there is more intrinsic experience looped in here, I think, like, watching something with your child or,
Mm,
experiencing travel, family, all
yeah.
of that. Um, and there's some, it seems like behavior changes you're
Yes.
desiring, right? Like your
Yeah.
daily routine matters. Everything you do now is for the future.
Hmm.
And so it's not so much the pictures you chose, right?
Okay.
But even as you talk about it, the feeling behind it, it felt very like, well, this makes sense to put on here.
Yeah.
Or, or like you said, like very just skills, work, like the feeling I got behind it, and you can please let me know if I'm inaccurate, is like this is almost these are the shoulds that I'm putting on here.
Oh God. Yes.
Yeah. Yeah.
No, you nailed that. In fact, you said, you know, this is, you said the word should, and this makes sense. This is very practical. I'm going to exercise. So,
Yeah.
not with a ton of intention. Like, why is that important? Why would I want that? Um, this picture makes sense. I think you
Mhm.
captured it exactly.
Right. And again, I think what I've experienced from our community is uh, very pragmatic,
Yes.
very practical.
Yes.
And again, there's so much great that is in that. And I think we have forgotten how to dream and how to have the magic,
Yes.
like of dreaming.
Yes.
Um, and because we are so, because we have low failure tolerance, most likely,
Mm.
because we are achievement focused. Um, Sometimes what happens is we set the bar lower for ourselves than we think.
Yes.
Because some of these are big things, right? These are big things that you want to move towards.
Yeah.
But sometimes what we do is we lower our belief ceiling to something that is achievable,
Yes.
right? And I'm curious, what is the feeling you want to experience in the next year or feelings?
Oh, wow. Oh my gosh. I don't think I've ever asked myself that. In fact, you said that at the very beginning of this, Nicole.
Mm.
And I was like, oh my God, I didn't think about, here's me getting in trouble. No, I'm just kidding. No, totally not. Totally not. But no, seriously, like I had this thought of, oh my God, I like never asked myself, what is the feeling I'm going
Mhm.
for? And so now you're asking me, what is the feeling that I'm going for in 2026? In full disclosure, I don't know.
Yeah,
Um,
and that's okay.
and I've thought about like the achievement goals, like how do I want to grow and how do I want to do this and how do I, so this is me in real time. I don't know. I have to think a little bit more about that, but I'm writing that
Yeah,
down in
yeah.
courage class. I don't know if that's something, our community has really contemplated. I want to put that out
Mhm.
there. I don't know. I don't know every single one of you. And if I think I do, asking yourself what sort of feeling you want to move towards in the next year. That's an incredible question, Nicole.
Yeah, and like you said, it's hard,
It's
right?
hard.
It's
Yeah.
hard, especially, part of our conditioning also has been to disconnect ourselves from our feelings.
Yes.
Um, we were kind of allowed a small range of emotions, but if we're
Mm,
too happy, too sad, too angry, too in quotation marks, right?
yes.
That wasn't welcome.
No.
And so there is a disconnection and a lot of times. So that feelings question is difficult. So maybe a better access point
Mm,
for that is okay, choose one of the achievements that you want, right? So
okay.
what's something that you want to achieve for next year?
Um, I want to look more at speaking opportunities. So I want to give a speech. I want to deliver a workshop. Beyond that,
Amazing.
I don't know.
Okay,
Like
great.
where and how. Yeah.
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 So now think about that and put it in the experience lens,
Oh,
right? And so standing up there, delivering a speech that you worked on for a group of people, what is why is that an experience you want to work towards?
I think for me, I'm a teacher by training, and I get so much joy connecting with people, not necessarily teaching.
Hmm.
I get so much joy in the feeling of pulling information out of people who they when they didn't realize it actually lived in them. I don't know, that's very abstract, but when I would work with students or even graduate students, when we would talk about a specific theory, the best part of the job was when they would draw the conclusions and I would just ask the question. And
Yeah.
so when you're asking me what is the experience, what in sort of the speaking, the engagement, it's yeah, it's the connection that you get selfishly. Like I feel like I'm like I'm learning something here, so
Yeah.
being able to pull that out of people is fun
Hmm.
in that experience.
Yeah. So that's a big value there, right?
Mm.
Connection with others. Um, and and you even said a feeling joy, right?
Oh,
There's joy in that.
yeah,
You find pleasure in that,
yeah.
right? Um, and so maybe if joy is the motion and connection is the value, those can, you can start asking yourself, well, what else would support that connection experience? Or what else would be joyful for
Oh,
me
wow.
in
Yeah.
the new year?
Yeah.
Um, because, there's a reason that you want that and someone else doesn't want that. Someone else is not putting on their vision board speaking in front of a large audience,
Mm,
right?
mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
There's a reason that you're wanting it. And what you just did is allow yourself to dive deeper of, well, why is that?
I
You know?
see.
Hmm.
Um, wow. Nicole, can I, would it be okay with you? Can we take it down the vision board? Can I go back to you?
Yes. Yeah. Yeah.
No, because if I may just share with you, first of all, how I just
Yeah.
experienced you. Um, you guys, when Nicole, like I felt so, I'm gonna be honest, I'm a 45-year-old woman and I feel so silly sharing and talking about the, like I was very nervous talking to you about
Mm.
it. And I just want to say from even a coaching perspective, like there was zero hesitation or judgment on your part when I was stumbling through the feeling that I wanted or the
Yeah.
value that I wanted. And so, Courage Class, I just want to point that out right now. When you're, first of all, go to Nicole Cruz if you want to go. um, and if Nicole Cruz is not accessible to you at that moment of time, like find someone who's very similar in the way that you made me feel just now. There was no judgment. Like, I feel like I could have been like, and then I want to like fly over the Empire State Building. You would have been like, okay, so tell me the feel,
Yeah.
and like there was just no judgment. So I just want to say it. I want to call
Oh,
that out. That's
thank
super
you.
important. I feel like
Yes.
when you're talking about something, you just walk me through a brand new exercise. I have never even thought to think about what I want to experience inside of the experience or what I wanted to feel. I had never thought about
Mm.
that. And I feel a little silly doing it on a podcast because I've never done it. Not because it's a silly exercise, because I'm just, like this is you were turning the lens on me and I was very uncomfortable. And so, but you just held that. Courage Class, I just really want you to know that when we were talking about earlier how uncomfortable it is to first begin doing this, I just want to underscore that was very uncomfortable. And holy moly, I have never made the connection that connection was a value of mine and
Mm.
that there is a certain feeling that I'm aiming to experience in that moment. And then I know we didn't go beyond like sort of what are the skills, but I imagine at some point in a coaching
Yeah.
conversation we would have talked about, so what are the sort of action steps you have to take in order to start begin
Yeah.
to begin realizing that. But from a vision board context, that was really just from any kind of, what am I talking about, not even vision, when
Mm.
you're thinking about like living a more intentional life, that was really incredible.
Mm.
May I ask you, you know, before someone even touches the finding the pictures or like setting the goals or even identifying the experiences, is there some sort of inner reflection or inner work or groundwork that you feel like would need to happen first before
Mm.
we even begin to ask ourselves, what are the emotions that you want to experience in your journey?
Yeah, because that is a big question. Um, and what I invite all my clients to do, regardless of where on their journey they are,
Okay.
is to, again, there's a lot of permission we need to give ourselves.
Oh,
And so giving yourself permission to admit you don't know, giving yourself permission to not be the A student
oh.
in this,
Mm.
and to give yourself permission to be curious and explore. These are big things that we did not have the permission to do ourselves,
Yeah,
when we were growing up.
so true.
And so a lot of this work is giving yourself permission to break the rules, which is very uncomfortable for our community. But and to know that there's a reason for it, right? There's
Mm.
there's a reason those rules served us in the way that they did. They got us to a point where high achievement, incredible work ethic,
Yeah.
all of these things. And now, if you're at this point of, okay, this is not feeling like how I want it to, I want to try something differently, giving yourself permission to change the rules
Mm.
for yourself
Yeah.
so that when you are confronted with the questions of what do I want? What do I want to feel? That it's not so much like there's, where hopefully there's a little less resistance and a little more neutrality
Mm.
around it of like, I'm just asking myself a question and it's okay if I don't know the answer. It's not wrong to not know. So I think a lot of just giving ourselves grace and giving ourselves permission to be a little messy
Mm.
with this
Yes.
um, can be really helpful to allow yourself to kind of open up to what could be possible.
Yeah. Yeah. And I love that you are naming that for us, for our community, because you're right. It is very uncomfortable to not be the A student, because that's the way it has been for many, if not all of us.
Mhm.
Are there specific questions that we can ask ourselves as we are giving ourselves permission?
Mm. Yeah. So I think as a community, we are very worst case scenario oriented.
Yes.
Very, very much like, let me look at what could go wrong.
Yes.
And so I would invite you to actually ask yourself, what are the good things that could be possible if I gave myself permission to be curious? If I gave myself permission to ask myself what I want, what are the good things that could come of it versus what are all the bad things that might happen if I steer away from this safe, certain path that I'm used to.
Mm,
Yeah.
thank you. I feel like you're not asking me to even commit, even just yet, to like
Mm-mm.
moving towards it. Like you're just literally giving yourself the A-OK, um,
Yeah.
to feel the discomfort. So,
Just inviting
yeah,
other possibilities.
other possibilities. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's great. Thank you. Um, Nicole, if listeners walk away with just one intention for the new year, um, what would you hope it would be?
Mm. I hope that you check in with yourself
Mm,
throughout the year.
mm,
We set these intentions at the beginning, these goals in the beginning, and sometimes we experience something different or life changes or, uh, we just want to change our minds. And so I would invite you, whatever experience you pursue, whatever achievement you put on your radar, to allow yourself from time to time to check in and ask yourself, is this still what I want?
mm. Oh my
Does this
gosh,
still feel good?
that is so
Yeah.
powerful. I have to be honest, like to actually allow ourselves to change our mind, like that's a thing. Like we can
Yeah,
do that.
I know.
I feel like I can't even tell you how many times like I'm like, no, I have to finish doing the thing I said I was gonna do, even
Yes.
though it felt horrible in my body. Nicole, in this final question, would you be willing to share with us what is your definition of courage?
Hmm. Courage for me is really like a decision.
Mm,
Like, yes, I think it's a feeling and it's a characteristic that all of us, everyone listening has within them. It's not something that you need to like drum up. It's just something you need to tap into
ooh,
because we come from a courageous lineage. we come from lineages that have had to tap into resilience and strength and creativity and resourcefulness to get us to where we are today. And so it's not something you have to create, it's already within you. And so for me, courage is the decision to choose the thing that feels a little risky, to choose the thing that you want versus your should. You know, living a courageous life comes in the actions, and that comes from the choices that we make. And so for all of us, we already have courageous choices in front of us. And the way to tap into that more is to make the choice that requires more courage.
Yes. It's already all inside of all of us.
It's already there.
Yeah. Wow. Thank you. Thanks for joining me on this episode of Courage Class. I hope today's conversation gave you a little encouragement and inspiration. If you enjoyed it, please like and subscribe so you never miss an episode. And for extra motivation, tools, and behind-the-scenes content, sign up for my newsletter. I'd love to share with you more there. See you next time.